I've lived in Salem my entire life, which means two things. One, I can parallel park on a crowded cobblestone street better than most people can breathe. And two, Halloween doesn't impress me anymore. When you grow up in the Witch City, every October feels like someone dumped a spear of Halloween on top of a history textbook and called it culture. By the time the tourists arrive in their pointy hats and plastic broomsticks, most of us locals have already accepted that traffic laws no longer apply. Strangers will take pictures on your front porch without asking, and no matter where you go, someone in a cape is going to block the sidewalk. So on October 31st, at 10:47 p.m., I was just tired. Not scared, not even amused, just done. I had just gotten off a late shift at the auto shop and was making my way back through one of the older residential streets on the west side. Narrow, slanted road, jack-o'-lanterns flickering on porch steps, cornstalk bundles on mailboxes. Every house looked like it was auditioning for most Pinterest fall aesthetic. Even the air smelled like cinnamon and would smoke. I wasn't thinking about anything horror movie worthy. I was thinking about reheating leftover pasta and falling asleep with the TV still on. Then I saw it. A pumpkin, sitting perfectly centered in the road. Not smashed, not toppled from a porch, not kicked aside by kids, just placed there. Deliberate, upright, its round, orange body lit faintly by my headlights, like it had been waiting for someone to notice it. I slowed down, expecting it to roll, maybe tip over from the breeze or shift from the gravel under my tires. It didn't move. I stopped completely. Really? I muttered. Probably some kid's leftover prank. Maybe they'd been rolling it down the hill earlier and forgot it. Maybe someone left it there to get crushed for laughs. Maybe I was just too damn exhausted and my brain was making it weirder than it was. I put the car in park, stepped out, and approached it. Up close, it was unnaturally clean. No carvings, no marker face, not even those annoying little stickers grocery stores sometimes slap on them. Its surface was smooth and flawless, like it had been bought just hours earlier. It wasn't just sitting there. It had been placed, a little too perfectly. Centered, measured, aligned with the exact middle of the lane. I gave a dry laugh. All right, cute, very spooky. I bent down, grabbed it with both hands. It was heavier than expected, and carried it to the side of the road, next to someone's maple tree, dropped it there with a thud. Then, satisfied that I had restored order to society, I headed back to my car. I got in, closed the door, reached for the gear shift, and froze. In the rearview mirror, the pumpkin was back in the middle of the road, exactly where it had been before. I stared into the rearview mirror for a solid 3 seconds, completely still, like if I didn't move, reality would correct itself. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I hadn't pushed it as far as I thought. Maybe I was confusing where the middle of the road actually was. Logical explanations. Easy explanations. But logic doesn't stop your pulse from thudding in your throat. I turned around in my seat and looked directly through the back window. There it was, perfectly centered, again. My first instinct wasn't fear, it was irritation. Okay, who's the comedian? I shoved the door open and stepped out, scanning both sides of the street. Quiet. Every porch was dark now. Post, trick-or-treat curfews. No curtains shifting, no footsteps, no giggles. Just the cool breeze rattling some dead leaves along the gutter. I walked over to the pumpkin again, this time slower, half expecting someone to leap out and yell, "Gotcha!" Nobody did. I crouched down beside it and inspected it again, as if I'd find a string attached. Nothing. All right, I muttered. Round 2. I picked it up and carried it further, not to the sidewalk this time. I walked up onto someone's lawn and tucked it behind their mailbox, out of sight from the road. If some kid wanted to play jokes, they were going to have to work harder for it. I brushed my hands off and turned back toward my car. Halfway there, I stopped. Not because of the pumpkin this time. Because I realized something. The road was dead silent. Even this late at night, Salem has background noise, distant voices, cars somewhere off in the next street over, Halloween stragglers laughing on sidewalks. But suddenly, there was nothing. Like someone had pressed mute on the entire neighborhood. I didn't like that thought, so I didn't think it. I just walked faster. I got back in my car, shut the door, locked it, and grabbed the wheel with both hands like that made me safer. All right, enough. I breathed. Home, food, bed. I shifted into drive. My headlights flooded the street ahead and lit up the pumpkin. Back in the middle of the road. Again. This time, facing me. It wasn't carved. It didn't have a face. But I swear, placement alone can feel like someone looking at you. I didn't get out this time. I just sat there with my hands glued to the steering wheel, staring through the windshield like I was waiting for the pumpkin to blink. I wasn't tired anymore. Every muscle in my body felt alert, wired, like I'd just been shaken awake. I wasn't dealing with chance, or gravity, or some neighborhood prank left on repeat. Somebody was doing this. Not earlier, not hours ago, right now, while I was sitting here. And if they were close enough to move the pumpkin that fast without me seeing them, they were close enough to be watching me, right now. My first thought was to reverse, back out, go around. But backing up down this narrow street at night wasn't smart. Plus, whoever was doing this wanted me to get out again. So I didn't. I took a breath through my nose, keeping my eyes fixed straight forward. Then I hit the gas. Not full speed, just enough to roll forward slowly, creep toward it like I was calling its bluff. The pumpkin stayed put. I kept rolling. 10 feet away. 8. 6. 4. I was close enough now that the edge of my bumper was almost touching it. I could have run it over, crushed it flat, ended this whole thing in one loud, messy, satisfying second. But I didn't. Because something in my gut whispered, don't. I wish I could explain it better than that. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't superstition. It was instinct, a warning. If I destroyed it, I'd be crossing some line I didn't understand. So instead of flooring it, I stopped. Then, slowly, I turned the wheel and eased the car to the right, skirting around it. I didn't look at it as I passed. I didn't want to know if it had turned again. My street was 3 turns ahead. I focused on that, on the familiar mailbox at the corner, on the dim porch lights glowing like little life rafts. Left turn, then right. Then, my high beams caught movement. A shape on the shoulder of the road. A person, standing perfectly still, facing me. My brain jumped to costume. Someone still out from the festivities. But no, there was no movement, no drunk wobble, no shifting weight, just stillness. I slowed, squinting through the glare of my own headlights. They weren't in a costume. They were wearing all black. Black hoodie, black jeans, black shoes, hood up, hands in pockets, head tilted slightly down like they were staring at the ground between us. My heart thudded hard against my ribs. I knew, without being able to prove it, that they were the one moving the pumpkin. I also knew, without any reason at all, that if I stopped or rolled down my window, or so much as made eye contact, something bad would happen. So I didn't stop. I drove right past. And as I passed them, without turning my head, just barely through the edge of my vision, I saw their head turn. Not quickly. Not theatrically. Just following me. I don't remember the rest of the drive home. I must have taken the correct turns because I made it to my street, but I couldn't tell you how. The world had narrowed to a tunnel, my only focus being do not stop. Not for lights, not for signs, not for anything. When my house finally came into view, I expected relief. It didn't come. Instead, I had this sudden realization. I didn't feel safe here anymore. Home, the place where you normally exhale, now felt like a trap. A place where I'd have to get out of the car, where I'd be exposed, where whoever was out there could be waiting. I pulled into the driveway, but didn't turn the engine off. I just sat there with the headlights illuminating my front porch, keys still in ignition, one hand hovering over the shifter like I might take off again. I told myself to calm down, that I was overreacting, that I hadn't seen anything actually threatening, just a pumpkin, just a guy on the side of the road. Then why was every instinct in my body screaming, "Don't move"? Finally, I grabbed my phone and pulled up my camera app, switching to the front-facing view so I could look behind me without turning around. The driveway and the street beyond it reflected on the tiny screen. Empty. My breathing slowed just a little. One step at a time, I told myself, just get inside, lock the door, that's it. I turned off the engine. Immediate silence fell like a blanket over me, thick and uncomfortable. I unbuckled my seatbelt and opened the door. The night air hit me, sharp and cold. I listened. Nothing. No wind, no crickets, no distant laughter. Just stillness. I stepped out and shut the car door quietly, forcing myself not to slam it, even though every nerve in my body wanted to bolt to the front door and fumble the keys like a horror movie stereotype. I didn't run, but I walked fast. Up the short path, onto the porch, keys already in hand. I jammed one into the lock, then froze. Something was on the doormat. Something I knew hadn't been there when I left earlier. It took a second for my brain to register what I was looking at. Then it clicked. A pumpkin. Smaller than the one in the road, but same shape. Same perfect placement. Centered, deliberate, waiting. I didn't touch it, didn't bend down, didn't inspect it, didn't try to rationalize how it got there. I just unlocked the door, went inside, and shut it behind me. Then I locked it. Deadbolt. Chain. Security latch. Then I stood there in the dark, back pressed against the wood, breathing like I'd just run a marathon. After a moment, I flicked on the entryway light. Warm yellow glow washed over the small hallway. I checked the peephole. The pumpkin was still there. Unmoving. Silent. Watching. I stayed at the door longer than I meant to. Just standing there, hands still resting on the chain lock like I needed physical contact with it. As if the thin piece of metal between me and the outside world could somehow guarantee anything. Eventually, I forced myself to move. I stepped away from the door, but I didn't turn my back to it. I walked backward into the living room, watching the entryway like it might suddenly burst open. The logical part of my mind, the piece still clinging to normalcy, whispered that I should call someone, a friend, the cops, anybody. But what exactly was I going to say? Hi, yes, I'd like to report a pumpkin that won't stay put, and a guy in a hoodie who may or may not exist. I could already hear the silence on the other end of that call, or worse, the polite, dismissive "we'll send a patrol car to drive by." Then nothing would change, and I'd still be here, alone, waiting. No, I needed proof. Something I could point to, something undeniable. I went to the window beside the front door and, keeping myself out of direct line of sight, gently nudged the curtain aside with one finger. The pumpkin was still there on the doormat. But now, there was something else. Wet footprints, leading from the sidewalk up to the porch. Not muddy, not from rain. Bare, human feet. I swallowed, eyes tracking the faint, glistening prints across the concrete. They stopped just short of the pumpkin, meaning whoever brought it there had placed it carefully, and then stood still. Right there. For how long? And where did they go? A noise escaped my throat. Not quite a word. Not quite a sound. More like my body reacting before my brain could process. I backed away from the window slowly, then faster. Then I turned and went down the hall, flicking lights on in every room as I passed. Kitchen, empty. Bedroom, empty. Bathroom, empty. Closets, empty. I checked every door twice, every window, every shadow. Then I stopped in the hallway, standing dead center in the house, staring down its length toward the front door. From here, I couldn't see the pumpkin itself, just the bottom edge of the door. But I could feel it, like a weight, a presence. No sounds, no movement, just waiting. I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch with every light in the house on, TV muted, back to the wall, facing the front entrance like a soldier guarding a trench. At some point around 3 a.m., I stood up and walked back to the window. The porch was empty. No pumpkin. No footprints. Just gone. Like none of it had happened. Except I know it did. Because I haven't used my front door since. And every night, without fail, before I turn out the lights, I look through the peephole, just in case it comes back. Because I know, deep down, it wasn't about the pumpkin. It was about whoever wanted me to see it.